Hey, everybody, we are here tonight live once again with another great and exciting IncrediChat brought to you by Incredicon, the Hudson Valley's family-friendly comic and pop culture fest. And I mean, some of you probably saw we were having some technical difficulties getting out here tonight. I went live a couple of times and it was just me chilling out on my couch. But what we're going to do tonight, we're going to pull in a wonderful groovy guest, and he's got a lot of great stories. He's kind of done a little bit of everything. Tonight, we're going to welcome from the wonderful world of New England, our friend, Mr. Gary Sohmers, the king of pop culture. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Aloha, Mike.
Hello. So, yeah, I was just saying we went live a couple of times as we were figuring this all out. Technology, right?
It's not a perfected technology. That's what we've learned. There's a learning curve.
Evolving every single day. So, Gary, you are the king of pop culture. All right. So please tell us. I think this is the perfect place to start because some people tuning in may not know who you are. So how did you get this name, the king of pop culture? Let's start there.
Well, back in the 1980s, I moved to Boston area from Madison, Wisconsin, and I came here because I knew how to. I had a girlfriend, and she was moving back from college to Boston, and she said, "Come on back with me." So I did, and moved here, and I opened a little record store because I bought and sold records, but I also dealt in antiques and collectibles and memorabilia and other stuff. And at the same time, I'm a musician, a songwriter, and a concert producer and promoter. And I went to work on Lansdowne Street in Boston, producing concerts at a place called the Metro. Big giant club. Everybody played there. Got to work with Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan and the Allman Brothers and the B-52s and Beastie Boy. I mean, just it was great to get to work with all of them. But anyway, I digress. We'll get back to that.
You've worked with some wonderful people.
But it was all multi-stack layered. So here I am. I'm working on Lansdowne Street promoting concerts. I've got a little record store buying and selling collectibles, and I'm producing collectibles extravaganza at a little trade show center in Massachusetts, and it's kind of tied to a flea market. And we aggregated a whole bunch of our collectible buddies, and we put together the collectibles extravaganza. So in 1986, it was 86, I suggested to the guy who ran the flea market, I says, if you hire a big celebrity to come and sign autographs, we'll get a lot more people. So he goes, well, see who you can get. So somebody got me the phone number for this guy, Adam West. And he was like a has-been at that time. He had just been let go of being the voice of Batman on the cartoon series, and he was sad. But anyway, I somehow talked him into coming out to do a show. And it was the first time he had ever done a show really where he was respected and he was signing autographs and getting paid to sign autographs. And he, like on the phone, it's like, I'm not wearing the damn costume, and it's like, no, this is not that. People will tell you every minute how much they love you. He goes, really? Okay. So in the first day, he had 1,000 people show up at $10 an autograph. And he leans over to me and goes, Gary, can we do this every week? I says, well, we'll work on it. But in order to do that show, I had to do publicity. Come to the show. Adam Webb's coming, as I do. And I got on this radio show with a guy named David Brudnoy at WBZ in Boston. David Brudnoy was a late-night talk show host that had the largest audience, 30 states. Thousands and thousands, if not 1 million people listening to him every night. He was intelligent and funny and really, went the full range of arts and politics and everything. I mean, really respected. And so I would do his show. I did that show, and he opened up the callers, and people started calling in. And I said I could do psychic appraisals. I could tell you what your stuff's worth without even seeing it. And people would call in, and I would just be like going, it was just so much fun. And he said one night, this is like right at the peak when Michael Jackson was the king of pop. And he just named me. He says, if Michael Jackson's the king of pop, you're the king of pop culture. So I took that, and more or less I did David's show for about 10 years on a regular basis, once every 2 months or so, because he had so many guests. But we would do an hour or two of psychic appraisals, and people would call in from all over. I mean, it was back before internet, so it was just radio, and you get calls from Florida and Chicago for their stuff, and it was just a lot of fun. And in a sense, that led to me getting the Antiques Roadshow gig, because I was quite well known. I had a huge depth of knowledge of the value of crap. I mean, all the people on Roadshow knew the value of the antiques and paintings and, valuable stuff, but who knew the value of a piece of crap that we all played with and threw away? It's like, there's a difference. And so, being the king of pop culture, they needed a king of pop culture when they finally Roadshow got popular. And so it kind of all played together. Mm-hmm. Is that a short enough long story for you?
Well, no, I mean, and certainly that opens up, and we have a handful of viewers here tonight. So hello, everybody that's watching us. I just want to say that.
Handful.
A couple of handfuls, maybe all.
No, that's a high five. That's a COVID hello.
Oh, we got to do this then.
Yeah, high five. Hi.
But yeah, guys, feel free to ask any questions tonight too. So let me just ask, what exactly is a psychic appraisal? How does that work? Can we do it tonight? If I tell you something, you're gonna tell me what it's worth?
You could try, yeah, but that's sort of what it is. It's like, I am not going to Google it. I'm going to use my intuition. I'm going to tap into the universe, and I'm going to take into consideration time and place and now. And let me just kind of give you an idea of valuation. Just the term valuation has 3 applications. There's liquidation. What can you get for it today? Mm-hmm. Second is fair market value. If it was in an auction or priced in a shop, retail value, fair market value. Then there's replacement costs. If it burns up in a fire, how much is it going to cost that insurance company to get you the same one again? So when somebody says they want an appraisal, psychic or real, they've got to say what appraisal they want. Well, I want to know what I can sell it for today. Well, that's a big difference than if it burns up in a fire. Well, sure, anything you want. Try me.
I'm going to ask you this, and I don't know if this is because you just kind of were talking, and there's some other things I definitely want to ask upon. But we'll just ask you this because we have a lot of people in the Comic-Con world. I do Comic-Cons. You do your Comic-Cons. We attend so many of these shows. Well, let me ask you this as someone in collectibles. What do you feel about Funko Pops? The hot item, you go to any of these conventions and people have walls of Funko Pops. Everybody's investing their money in Funko Pops. What do you think about those?
I think you should buy stock at Funko. But I mean, not Funko stock. Okay, so what'll happen eventually is, just like in any mass-produced object that is never played with, the rare will be always rare, and the common will always be common. So if people took them out and played with them, they may be able to go up in value. But since nobody is playing with them, nobody ever takes them out of the packaging, the whole concept is that you're paying about $5 for something. It's either going to be always worth $5, even if $5 only is what it costs for a parking meter. It won't matter that your $5 is probably protected. But the reality is, because of 2 things, supply and demand, and the nostalgia curve. So when the nostalgia curve crosses, things get to be very pop. First, they're starting off early, then they become very popular, and then they drop off in popularity.
Something like Game of Thrones or something like that.
No, it's more like the age of the human. So when you're young and you've got money to spend, or you're buying back your youth, there's these time periods on this nostalgia curve when you're nostalgic for the objects. And then there's those times when, get this crap out of my house. I don't care how much I get for it. So you have these different variables in this thought path. So in the Funkos, just for example, in the early days when they were making a lot less of them and distributing a lot less of them, the demand to supply issue, similar to Beanie Babies, can be falsely manipulated. People can say, well, they were making only thousands then instead of tens of thousands, just like beanies, and it kind of gets that supply-demand ratio. So online, you'll see them all over the place on prices. But what is anybody really paying? So you got to go look on Fleabay for completed items to see what they're really going for. And then you see some of them that were, common 2 weeks ago are hot today because the movie came out or because somebody died. So these types of influences on the nostalgia curve are, how do you buy into knowing that Black Panther's going to die young and that all of a sudden it's going to be worth 80 times the price tomorrow? You don't know these things. And then that demand drops like whoosh, because what happens is there's a huge outpouring of emotional buying. Emotional buying is what creates those bumps and bubbles. So emotional buying happens, and all of a sudden, and you see it with everything like this, Michael Jackson and Prince and Bowie, goes boom, way up, and then all of a sudden, if it's just like the stock market, if you buy in at the wrong point on the stock market, you're paying for everybody else's win. So in the same thing with Funkos is buy what you like because you're probably going to be stuck with it the rest of your life. And again, speculating in anything like this these days that's not taken out of the package and played with is a bad thing. It's just, it's a toy. Play with it.
Well, because that's the one thing, and I mean, certainly, I was around it when and obviously you were doing this too. So back in the 70s, the Millennium Falcon came out and all those great Star Wars figures, and everybody bought them. And then all of a sudden, Star Wars became very popular again, and all those toys went up. And you know what? To this day, those original Kenner toys are worth some money. But then all of a sudden, Power of the Force came out and Episode 1. And I remember going to Toys R Us during Midnight Madness, everybody loading up their carts with Anakins and Jar Jar Binks and all these other Power, the green cards, the red cards, what have you. And nobody opened them. And now you can get them from $1 to $5 at any of these conventions because nobody opened them.
Well, that's that segment. But what many people missed was, so after Jedi, the Ewoks came out and the Power of the Force with the coins, and they started selling less and less of them, making less and less of those, and those became some of the rarest ones. Yeah. And so you have this big gap where after the first movie stuff is great. Nobody kept it mint in the package. Nobody even thought about it. Of course. By the second movie, they were producing so much product that I would say sometime in the mid-1980s, I was buying cases, many, many cases, warehouses full of cases of unopened carded figures. Seriously, truckloads of Empire and then Jedi. There was so much inventory out there. So that big inventory still exists where people can find a lot of not mint, but at least carded Empire. But you don't find much of the first movie, and you don't find much of Ewoks and Power of the Force. So what's happening now with the green cards and the red cards, that the continuation 91, that era. Now, all of a sudden, those are actually becoming in demand because when they were so plentiful in the 90s and in early 2000s, kids took them out and played them. So they took them out and played with them. So all of a sudden now they have a nostalgia for something they played with. And now 10 years later, they're going, oh, yeah, I remember when I bought that for $5. Now it's 20. Okay, well, I need a carded one to go with my nostalgic one. So again, the nostalgia curve affects that. But I was talking to a friend today about the 90s, the Turtles and Ghostbusters. We were talking, this is something that people are not aware of, and that there's such a small quantity that was produced, and even smaller quantities produced for 2000s toys. Is there a demand for a nostalgic, for a 1960s or 70s character in a 2000s toy? I don't know. Depends on how that person got attached to the product.
Yeah, and I mean, because certainly, and again, because I have a question here about Funkos too from one of our viewers. Like even now, like right now, the hype with Star Wars is like Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, and there is so much Baby Yoda merchandise, for instance, right? So you get that little Baby Yoda, or you get that Mandalorian figure. Everybody's keeping it on card because they're thinking, oh, this is the first Mandalorian or Baby Yoda figure. It's going to be worth money. In reality, everybody's going to have it on card in 20 years, and it's going to maybe be $20 still.
It may be. I think that's a very good point. That people now are looking at it as which is the next gold mine, the same way that they did with Beanie Babies, you know. So, and Funko's the same thing. Everyone's looking at it. They rush in. I mean, I've seen some of those Funkos priced at $2,000, $3,000 for some reason. I don't know if people buy them, but why? What?
Yeah. Well, so going to the Funko, so Steve Lancevich, who's a good friend of ours here down in the Hudson Valley, he asks, do you feel that Funko's recent dip in stock price is due to COVID or due to a fad dying out? Hula hoops don't last forever, he says.
I think that their main distribution source is independent dealers who sell at shows. So the problem is there are not a lot of stores anymore that you can go into like there used to be, you know, Toys R Us's around the country that would buy huge quantities of these collectible toys. So with comic book shops shutting down because the comic book industry is being destroyed by Disney, Marvel, and DC, and the independents, it's cost prohibitive to print and distribute books because the diamond distribution problem. So all these things compound for the distribution of a product like Funko. Where are they going to sell? I know guys that did shows every weekend and they would spend $10,000 on Funko because they knew they were going to sell it that weekend at Wizard World or at another con. Those orders are gone. So my best guess is that if Funko was smart, they'd be making smaller quantities of products and making them more exclusive. And then again, like they do, the co-branding with the Disney and the Marvel and stuff through those individual sites, that could probably help them drive their market back again by you know, accepting that you don't do a mass quantity and then send it out in a mass way, but you take specific quantities and you make people chase for them. You know, oh, you got to go to this site to find those or this site to find those, and then just have like a treasure map.
Yeah, no, cool. Thank you. I hope that helps, Steve. So now I do want to circle back because again, we want to get to Beasties as well. I want to circle back to Adam West because you said he was the first guest that you brought into a show, and I know for a fact because I was fortunate enough to be at the last public appearance that he did at one of you, and it was at your show was his last public appearance because that was like around February, March, and then he had passed like late April, right?
Yep, about 6 weeks before he passed.
Yeah, and he was with Burt Ward, and again, I know you guys had a special relationship. Tell us a little bit about that special relationship with Adam.
Well, it was interesting because, you know, I never expected to actually have Adam West's phone number, honest to goodness, you know. And so when my friend gave me the phone number, I expected I'd be talking to an agent, but the voice is the voice. You hear Adam West's voice, you know, goosebumps because, you know, it was great. But, you know, I had balls. I was going to ask. So after the first event, and I got him lined up with an agent, and I had him out, I think, 2 more times before 1990. So we always had a good time. So one time, was the next time? No, it was 2 times later. The 2 times later, we're at Bayside Expo Center. And, you know, I've introduced Adam to Fred, and Fred became Adam's road manager. Fred was an asshole and rude and mean, but he watched Adam's back. He was so good for Adam. I mean, it was great. You know, it was one of those type of things, you know. So I did this show at Bayside, and I had Adam West and I had Van Williams, who was the Green Hornet. Mm-hmm. And, I never was interested in bringing Bert in. And the guy who handles Van handled Bert, but, we brought Van, so it was Batman and Green Hornet. And Adam had told me that his hero in life was this guy named Lash LaRue. Mm-hmm. Now, Lash LaRue was a cowboy movie star. Adam used to go to watch him, at the Saturday matinees. And he told me the whole story of how much Lash influenced his portrayal of Batman. Mm-hmm. Because he never used a gun, always used his mind or his kindness or a whip, anything but to not kill. So Adam had this whole thing, about Lash, and we had great talks about it. So I reached out to everybody I knew, and I found a guy who found Lash LaRue for me when he was still alive. And we flew Lash LaRue in, and Adam was in total heaven. It was just like one of those kind of, wow. I mean, so I put them, they talked for like 3 days. It's just like one of those kind of magic moments, where you feel like you really did something good for somebody, like give him that. Because Adam's my hero, here's his hero. Wow, it was like great. So over the next rest of the time period, I think we did maybe 6 or 8 Comic Cons. He came up to do my show and did other people's show. And he had a very successful, career before Family Guy, just doing shows. And we were charging $10, $20. It was no big deal. He was thrilled to make that much money. And he made a lot of money. I mean, he was happy. Yeah. Then he got Family Guy, and all of a sudden a whole new generation knew who Adam West was. So when the 50th anniversary of filming the first episodes of Batman came up, that was like in 2015, 2016.
Yeah, when the movies came out, right?
Right. When he came up to the Shriners, I think you were there.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. I mean, just a great time, right? It was like playing music, and he's talking to everybody, and he was just the happiest youngster, I thought, right?
I mean, absolutely. And you talk about, fortunately, I've met Adam a bunch of times, but my 2 most memorable times meeting Adam was at your show. And just because, working some behind the scenes stuff there too, like I had some different experiences, but I remember we got up there, and for those who know, I work with some of the Muppet people too, and so it was myself, Noel McNeil, and Leslie Carrera Rudolph, and you had like the little green room, and in that green room there was this huge round conference table, right?
Right.
And so we had done our panel, and Gigi Edgley was with us too.
Yeah.
And so we had finished up this panel about Jim Henson and the Muppets, and we go into this big conference room. We grab something to drink or whatever, and our buddy Bill Diamond is in there sitting next to Adam West chatting. And the minute we walk through the door, Adam just looks at us. He's like, "Congratulations, you're just in time for the meeting," Because he's at the head of this round table, and it's just like that memory is great. And then another tied with Bill Diamond, we were taking some pictures with Adam at the last appearance of his, and I think Jack Hammer was our friend. Jack Hammer, he was taking the photo, and at that point Adam was walking with a cane, and Adam's like, "If you get me below the waist, I'll have to kill you."
I know, right?
But yeah, I mean, he, like you said, such great personality and such great memories about this man.
Well, he just enjoyed. One of the things that every time we got to spend at least an hour, even though crazy's going on all around us, and I'm supposed to be doing everything. Gary, you're going to sit down here. It's our time. We're going to talk. Tell me what you're doing. How's your kid? Just like all this stuff. And so it was interesting because when we moved the show from Shriners to the new venue in Hanover, I needed a guest that was going to bring attention. It's really hard to get anybody, the struggle between all the other shows and competing and everything else. So I called up Adam's agent, and I said, I really love if Adam could come. And he says, "No, Adam's not doing shows right now for a little while." I says, "Oh, okay, cool." I says, was he out fishing? Yep, he's out fishing. You know, this is January, so I knew he wasn't out fishing. But anyway, he just was taking time off.
Yeah.
I said, cool. I says, well, if he would, I'd really appreciate it if you could just at least ask him if he would come and do the show. So he calls me back literally right away, because he just called Adam, and said, Adam said he'll do it, but you have to bring Bert. Because he knows that I didn't bring Bert. But it's because Bert, as Adam would say, he just talks about the damn dog food. You know, because he's selling dog food. But Adam insisted I bring Bert. He asked for his price. I said, yes, of course. I've never turned down the price. And it was just one of those kind of lucky things where it's like 2 months before the show, and I just got Adam West and Burt Ward without knowing it was going to be their last appearance. So interestingly enough, my big competitor in town, what was the Boston Comic-Con, became Fan Expo. 2 weeks before our show, they announced that they have Adam West at their show in August. Now this is in March.
Yeah.
So we're like, why are they doing this? They don't have a contract. Adam blew a gasket when he found out. Called the guy up and told him that he's not doing his show, no matter how much he paid him. So it was just like, thank you, Adam. You know, so it was an uphill climb, but to me, it was worth it. And new venue, new marketing, you know, it's complicated to produce a show, as you probably know. But for most people that don't know, it's very complicated and expensive. So you risk and you gamble and you hope for the best. And it worked out great. It was just, we had the Batmobile, the Bat Cycle, the Bat Pinball Machine. We had a lot of batty people. It was really a great event. And I said to Adam when he says, well, this is going to be our last one, you know? And I says, cool. What are you going to retire? Just spend the rest of your life in a trout stream? He says, yeah, that's my plan. So that's all I knew. And when I found out, I mean, it was 6 weeks later, he didn't look like there was anything wrong with him. He used a cane when he had to walk over to go to the pinball machine that time, but back and forth to the car and stuff and to the hotel, he was fine. So just magic all the way through his life. So we were just lucky to be in his presence.
Yeah, no. And again, like, you know, I thank you to have had that opportunity to be fortunate enough to have met you and then get to meet Adam and spend some more time with him over the years.
And it's all luck. In my case, it was just all dumb luck. You know, sometimes you just have to pick up the phone and make the call, even though you're scared and you're not sure, and who knows what'll happen next. But if you don't, it's just a no.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly now that's a great segue, because you've done all these conventions, you've made all these contacts, you know, and it really is about luck and making these contacts, which leads us into Beasties, which is the sci-fi rock opera, which you guys are seeing scrolling down there, that you're now working on. And a lot of the creative folks that have been to your shows have helped you on this. So let's talk a little bit about Beasties now.
So I'm a songwriter. Most people don't know that. I've been doing that since I was very young. I write poetry and I write rock and roll songs. And, you know, I've got a lot. I did in the 70s in Madison, Wisconsin. I wanted to be a rock star, but mostly I was a publisher and a music writer and concert promoter and booking agent. So I got to work with a lot of great talent all the time. I got used to that. I mean, I got kind of spoiled because all the best musicians in Madison would play in my band, you know, just because it was a lark, and we would get together once a year and put on a great show. So I write a lot of songs, and we would do original songs, and everybody would contribute, and it was great. And one guy who contributed was a guy named Butch Vig, and he was a drummer in a band called Spooner. And Butch played on my record and also played on my music video that got played on MTV. And Butch, 10 years after we did that, He got Producer of the Year award for producing Nirvana's Nevermind. He produced Smashing Pumpkins. He's the drummer in Garbage, and he's the producer of Foo Fighters. So Butch, was one of those guys back then, and so I'm just kind of lucky. I fall into, again, like Batman, I fall in with good players and good people. So some of the songs, like Dinosaur Rock, which Butch worked on back in 1980, is in Beasties. And so what happened is, as a songwriter and as a human being, I was really impacted in 2016 by the presidential election in the state of America. The status of narcissism, and noticing and recognizing my own narcissism, and how narcissism is such an evil and can just destroy lives. And I saw a dictator coming to power in America leading the charge for narcissism. And it made me very sad and depressed. And in January 2017, for a whole week, 1 week, I crafted a rock opera and wrote the books and wrote the story and wrote the lookbook and everything that goes with it for a live stage show, a 2-hour live stage show with 17 songs. Mm-hmm. Put it all together in a week. Wrote many, many songs, a lot of lyrics, a lot of books, altogether 3 books. So what happened at that point is, what do? You've just expelled all of this creative energy. What do you do with it? Well, I'm a producer. So what does a producer do when they've got a bunch of great content that they think is great? No, that's the problem. I can recognize great content in others. Always. Can I recognize it in myself, or is it just a vanity project? Am I just doing this for me? Is my ego or narcissism going to be overriding the fact that I'm trying to do something different that you don't expect from me? I'm going to put on a great Comic-Con, right? Because you've seen it. No two ways about it. I can do comedy because you've seen it. Now, can I do a rock opera on stage on Broadway? Well, not right now. It's darn COVID. But anyway, it didn't stop me. In 2017, I took the music to an incredible musician named Bill Holloman, who plays in a band called Chic with Nile Rodgers, and he's played with Clapton and everybody else. I says, Bill, these are my songs. I need them orchestrated. We got to be able to present them. Mm-hmm. And wow, mind-blowing what he did with my music. Just, it's beautiful, phenomenal, powerful, exciting. So at this point, now here I'm a producer with an ego issue, whether it's a vanity or whether it's really supposed to be the universe is driving me to do this, because I wouldn't have written it all in a week. It wouldn't have such an impactful story that I have in this show if it wasn't supposed to happen. So now Bill creates all this great music. So now my head's going, wow, I got great. I think it's great. Bill thinks it's great. What's next? Who else do we need to go? So it's a process of producing a show that I'm learning, because I didn't know anything about producing a Broadway show or a rock opera. How do you do that? Who pays for it? Where's the money come from? What can you do? What can't you do? So I've had to learn all of that in the last 4 years. Now, let me tell you what the story is so you get an idea of why I'm insane. So this all came to me because the universe compelled it. You just got to know that. The point is do you ever realize where the impulse comes from for good or evil? What makes somebody be good? What makes somebody do something evil? Where does that impulse come from? Is it learned? Does it just spark in somebody's brain?
That's a good question.
These are the story. These are the questions that we're asking. And Beasties is the story of a concert in Central Park. A musician, his name is Voice. He has been a songwriter for 20 years, playing in bars and clubs, and he finally gets a hit record. It's like a Frampton comes alive. Everybody's playing, everybody's listening to it. It's like it's the songs of the time. It's what everybody hears and what everybody's thinking. So a concert promoter contacts his manager, and says, I want to put on a free concert with you in Central Park. We'll get 100,000 people. We'll stream it on the internet. It'll be huge. Wow, isn't that a great thing? So he's all psyched about this. What he doesn't know is that the promoter sold him out and actually took a sponsorship from a big corporate politician named Dick Trader. And Dick Trader interrupts the show and creates a scene because Dick Trader has attracted his evil people that are, you know, mean, and Voice has attracted his people, which are all people, hippies, punks, you know, all kinds of people that like music. And the scene on stage is the occurrence of meeting evil with kindness and hope and goodness, and showing the difference between apathy and empathy, and creating a solid contrast between those that are doing it just for greed and narcissism and those that are doing it for the universe and for the climate. So the moral is, you know, we're trying to compete against corporate corruption and climate destruction. But what the science fiction part about this is, the sci-fi part is that sitting on the stage, just like at any concert, there's roadies, security guys. Well, one of the guys sitting on the stage, the security guy, is impacted by an impulse from an alien being that is beamed inside of him. And now he is dealing with the fact that he has an alien that he has to deal with. So it's the mind of a human dealing with the mind of an otherworldly being that has been beamed into him, that has all the knowledge of the universe. Absolutely. Was beamed to him from somewhere in the universe, right into him. And now he's combined. It's not like taken over. He's now in a duality with an alien, with an impulse. It's just an impulse. So is it real or isn't it? Am I hallucinating? Did I get dosed? What's going on? So the process of this person dealing with an otherworldly concept inside him, and here's where the beasties come in. The beasties are the human emotions. You can sometimes see people's beasties when you look at them. You can absolutely recognize good beasties and bad beasties in all people. You know, it's the vibe, or it's the look, or what they say, or there's all kinds of reasons why you avoid some people and embrace others. Good beasties and bad beasties. And when you could start seeing the beasties as animated figures popping out right in front of you, all of a sudden now, am I dosed? And all of a sudden now, is everybody dosed? Or is this a mass hallucination that we are now being influenced by the universe, saying to us all, take a look at yourself, look at your beasties, accept you can control your beasties if you're good. Just work on it. It's not something that just happens. You have to work on controlling your bad beasties. You also have to work on controlling your good beasties, or you waste your energy. So the whole thing we're producing is a show to help change the world, because by being able to present a live musical event with the perspectives from each of these characters, there's multiple characters, the perspective of the villain, the perspective of the alien, the perspective of the guy the alien has inhabited, the perspective of the singer. All of these perspectives are what the show is. So what is your perspective? That's going to be the reality of this, is we expect everyone to have a different perspective and be able to contribute to the show in so many ways. So it's a lot of technology. We've got projections and video, and we tell the story on video. Animation, of course. Peter Bernard, who does Those American Girls, did the video animation for Dick Trader and Punkhead. Dick Trader, of course, eventually becomes a Tyrannosaurus Rex, because pretty much he's just a fossil fuel thing. And luckily, I'm so thrilled, our friend Philo Barnhart is doing the animation for the Beasties themselves, all the characters. And they're looking unbelievable. He did Little Mermaid. He did Beauty and the Beast. He did Secret of Nim. He's done Godzilla. I mean, he's a great animator and artist, and he's doing
worked for all the big studios.
What's that?
He's worked for all the big studios. Absolutely.
His parents worked for Disney back in the 30s, and he just inherited the skills. So, yeah, I'm so lucky to have the animation. So right now we released a 3-minute video of one of the songs called Even the Cool Succumb, which is when Dick Trader kind of sneaks in and starts singing along in the show. The animation is of Punkhead, and I sing Punkhead. Much like in Rocky Horror Picture Show, Richard O'Brien, who wrote the whole thing, did Riff Raff in the show. Well, I'm doing Punkhead. So it's if I have to do the show live on stage, I'm going to have to do a mohawk, spike my hair up, and paint it orange, okay? So, you got something to look forward to. There's a visual for you. But if you look at Punkhead in the video, you'll see that's what I will look like on stage. No, I won't. But anyway, I'm very lucky to have a huge rock star named Chris Farlow, and maybe you know him, maybe you don't, but Chris Farlow sings the voice of Dick Trader in the show. Mm-hmm. And Chris had a hit record in 1966 called Out of Time. It was a worldwide #1 hit. It was written by and produced by these two guys, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, and they sang backup. Yeah, they produced Chris's first album. Yeah, they sang backup for him. But what's the funny part was, before that, this guy named Jimmy Page produced Chris's first record when Jimmy was 17. And then when in the 1980s, Jimmy called Chris back to do sang lead on Outrider, Jimmy Page's Outrider album. And Death Wish, I think he did a Death Wish album with Jimmy Page and Chris. And Chris has been singing. He was in Coliseum and Atomic Rooster, which were two huge progressive rock bands. He's like the singer, a UK blues singer, just huge in Europe and everything else. And currently, Chris is singing with Van Morrison. They do duets. He's the opening act with his band. And then Van brings him out and they do duets. So I'm just so lucky to have Chris on the show. Starting next week, Barrence Whitfield is going to be recording voice. Barrence is on like 12 or 15 albums. Barrence Whitfield and the Savages, one of the greatest soul singers you'll ever hear. Just knows how to do it, So I'm very lucky. I'm just still trying to cast one more singer, and then hopefully will have a record release. And then working it through to the streaming stage next, where we'll be able to show it in a streaming environment.
Yeah. So I have one question from Steve. He says it sounds really cool. What age group is Beasties appropriate for?
All ages. Seriously, it's 13 years old and up. Maybe 10, because it's very moralistic in a positive manner. It's not scary. There's no blood. There's no sex. It's a concert in Central Park, and it's not scary. So realistically, I think kids will like it a lot because the characters that inhabit it are obviously easily identifiable, good from evil. That's a very important thing, and that evil exists and you should be able to recognize it. I think that's a good thing. I've explained the story to several children, and as the fact that emotions are beasties, and they understand that, because they don't understand emotions. And when you can kind of give them the fact that emotions are beasties, and once you can name them, then you can identify them and describe them and define them. And we have 12 beasties in the show, 6 good beasties and 6 bad beasties, empathy and kindness and hope and, versus greed and hate and apathy. But the characters are cool. You'll love them. Merchandising. We got a whole merchandising page already.
Well, and certainly, and I just want to say, like anybody who sees on the scrolling, Beasties Rock Opera incredicon.com. You can go and see all this stuff, and then it takes you to the YouTube page. And like the one song which I'll even recommend, which again has so many messages about what's going on, is the first song that I remember you played for us up in Hanover, which was "Stand Up and Be Counted." And I remember like this really has been for the last few years like such a drive and a passion for you, because I remember again with Bill Diamond, me and Bill were standing there and you were just saying, gotta listen to this song, and it's how awesome it is. So I mean, it really is a big passion.
I'm very proud of that. It's a message that right now is very important. We need to stand up and be counted. Every vote counts. Anything to get rid of the fascists and anarchists that are trying to take over our country. It's just, a very bad scene. So I'm a very political person. The show is political. Everything is politics, because if you don't look out for your neighbors, you don't look out for your country, then where are we? We're just lost. So Beasties is about saving the planet, and we are a global community. We got to stop thinking like there's borders, because when you're up in the International Space Station, you can't see the borders. And so if we got to start thinking about this as if we were all looking at this is my philosophy, and maybe people will call me, one of those whack jobs, but okay. My philosophy is the Earth is just a single cell in the body of a giant being, and space is just plasma. Unfortunately, this cell has bacteria. Mm-hmm. All kinds of us are bacteria. And there's some cancerous bacteria that's eating away at this cell. And so when impulse comes to the planet, instead of sending a meteor, they're sending a messenger. So if everybody would just be kind and, have empathy for the planet, have empathy for each other, and votes for the empathy, that's what it's all about to me.
Nice. And, Steve just wants to follow up. He says this sounds like really marketable to schools who might be looking to fill class time during the online learning. So maybe that's
correct.
The route.
What we're working on right now is, as everybody knows, the theater departments and music departments and arts departments of every school, every college is just shot. They don't care, really. It's like you don't need that to work at a bodega. So here, or whatever, the arts departments are shot. And for them to try and figure out how to come up with good academic programming is hard. What we're planning on doing, and we hope to be starting this in January, is we're going to stream the concept to completion process of producing a new show. So it'll be 3 hours a day, Monday through Thursday, noon till 3 o'clock. You will be, it's sort of like Big Brother or Fly on the Wall, and also participatory process where you'll be able to subscribe for the whole course, be able to follow different tracks. We'll have 5 different tracks you can follow, everything from the music to the video walls and complex CGI to sound and lights and staging and everything else, and also the business side of producing a show, so that schools could tap into this. We could offer to them for less than the cost of what they pay for one speaker to come to their school. So the concept is to be able to show all levels of people that want to participate in the arts the possibilities and opportunities that exist in creation and completion of a presentation. Ours is going to be an opera. The next one that we do after that could be just a musical or drama. So getting people to create, writers to write, producers to produce, musicians to play is a process. You got to see that the opportunity is there, and then have people give you opportunities to take advantage of it. So that's what, and Steve, thanks for paying attention to that, but that's really important. These next generation have to know that opportunities exist.
Yeah. And, that's a good segue into another question we have here from Joe Ryan. Joe writes, hello, I'm gonna put it up here on the screen too. It says, hello, I'm a graduate of the Kubert School, a new creator working on his first creator-owned book titled My Life with an 80s Girl. And I've done many shows promoting my work. What is your best advice for new creators and getting into some of the bigger shows? Any feedback will be most appreciated. So what can you give up and coming creator?
First and foremost, shows are like a dying breed right now for another year. So you have to find your next avenue than shows. Shows is good, but you have to wait till you get to the next avenue when we get back to business. Best way to get into a show like mine when you're an up and coming is to offer to not cost me anything and offer to promote yourself. Most importantly, on anything, you have to be willing to promote yourself. If the promoter says I need a graphic done to promote your stuff and a write-up, you get that to them today. You don't even wait till tomorrow, because that means that they want it, and that goes immediately into PR, and that means that you get a higher priority from the guy who didn't do that. Now, to get to the bigger shows, it's a stairway. To get to the bigger shows, you got to just show, look, I did this show, this show, this show, and this show. And those shows you had to kind of work harder for. But once you have a reputation of appearing and being not getting any negativity, and that's what Michael attests to, you got to look at what the negativity is going to be on the internet, from people. But you have that opportunity by building a reputation of being to the shows, and your bio's up and your photos are up, and you then contribute by tagging the show, and you tag all of the everything you can. You really spam up social media. That's your purchase price to come into the show, is that you're going to promote yourself. You don't have to promote anybody else at the show. Just make yourself a big deal by using good third-party, third-person text in your promotion of yourself. It's, the trick of the trade. Be competent.
And you may have even shared this with me, Gary, back years ago when I first started getting into doing stuff like this. Like, really, like you're saying, as you're promoting yourself, you're kind of almost creating your online resume, because, like you said, people are going to look up. You can say, I've been at these 5 or 6 other shows. People will look up there and listen. Shows don't update their shows once they happen. So if there's a big show and that other show was like 6 months ago and you did 5 or 6 shows, chances are they're gonna look at that website, see you up there, and then see your social media present, and they're gonna be like, oh wow, this guy has been at all these other shows, as opposed to just saying like, hey, I do this. You have to really build up a following, an audience for yourself, so people know to come look for you.
And then that's the way you get the buybacks. That's where, like, the next year you could say, can you cover my room this time? And then, oh, yeah, sure, man, you did a great job promoting yourself, so I'll pay for your 2 nights hotel. And the next year you say, how about I do a special poster for you? You cover my room and $50 in gas. Now you just worked your way up from, paying your own way to getting paid to be there. And these are the types of things that promoters want. They want the incentive of you're doing stuff to promote your appearance there. And I always look at it oh, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
hey, that was one of the things I did. And again, this was the Northeast Comic Con, and look what there he is there. Look at that guy. But yeah, you do stuff like this.
And that's how you work your way into credibility of the other promoters seeing that you did that. It may not work this trip. You may print 100 of those and take home 80 of them, but that's not what matters. It's all that PR you did that now the guy at the next show is going to see. I don't care how many you sold. I see how many hits you got. Even if it was 3 years after the show, I see people are still noticing it. That's the permanence of the internet.
And that's the thing too. And I mean, you've been doing social media. I mean, like obviously promoting Beasties and everything else that you've done, and just even before social media, it's like putting yourself out there. And it doesn't happen overnight. It does take time. It's work, And this is work that you're not getting paid for, because you get paid in the long run, but you're not.
No, you don't.
Well, hopefully.
Never.
But in the here and now, you are creating the content and the following for people to come and get you next time.
That's right. And that's okay, to go back to bar bands, you play the same bar once a year, those people would come back to see you. Same with a Comic-Con or anything else. That's why a lot of my guests come back every year or two, because they know their audience is going to follow them to my shows, because they built that audience themselves. I didn't have to build that audience for them. notified all their fans within driving distance.
Yeah, and again, and if you provide them with something, and again, I think about people like Bill. I think about Philo. I think about the stuff we've done with the kids stuff. Our friend Kim's got crafts. Kim's watching us right now too. She's out there. But even with the stuff that thank you, Steve. Steve just wrote a funny comment in the other chat. But yeah, no. You build that following, and people like Kim, like Bill, like myself. They even like you, Gary. People will come back and see you because you created that atmosphere, and even they came to your table and you made them feel important for however long they were at that table, or they liked your comic, or they liked the thing that you were doing. So they will come back and they will follow you to other shows too. Exactly.
I mean, you're bonding emotionally with people if you want to be an artist, or you want to be a musician, or you want to be pretty much anything. It's about bonding with people. I'm very lucky that when I produce shows, the people that work my shows and attend my shows and exhibit at my shows have been with me 35, 40 years. So it's sort of like an old family of people that all get along. And, we don't need more family. If you want to join our family, you're welcome to. But we don't need more family. But we will welcome you, because anybody that's fun and friendly and happy to be in this pop culture world, you're all welcome. That's the way we work.
Yeah.
But vote blue.
I do want to add to that. I remember the first time we went up to your show, Gary. It was myself, it was Alex, it was Leslie, and leaving there that weekend, and this was at the Shriners, and then we were all at the hotel. I mean, again, and Bill was there, and Adam was there. There are a few other people, but again, from your show, like so many other, I mean, there are people who are friends with coming into your show, but there are so many people who we made friends with, like with Kim and her family, and Tiff from Park Bakery, like these, it really is a family. And I mean, as we're sitting here talking about conventions, and as you travel around and do other shows, like there really is that sense of family, and you kind of miss it. Like I know you're at Chiller, and I know like everybody at Chiller, and I'm sure like you're dying, like we're coming up to October now, and it's not happening, And
right now I've got a couple more days to wait to find out if the governor's going to let us do our Thanksgiving show, but it doesn't look likely. Even with all the safety guidelines, a Walmart or a Market Basket or a Home Depot, which is the same size space as we have, we can meet those requirements safely if everybody is kind, wears a mask, use temperature check, COVID tests, whatever it takes, so that we can get back to doing a reasonably comfortable and safe job. I'm unemployed pretty much. I'm doing my art like everybody else. So hopefully someday we'll get back to a new reality, safe and secure.
Yeah, no, and hopefully that day will be very, very soon. I mean, I think that's a perfect way. It's almost an hour now, so I mean, perfect way to end. And I mean, yeah, again, guys at home, follow Gary's Beasties. You see it going there, beastiesrockopera.com.
Yeah, check out all the songs. There's 3 books. You can read them all for free. And you can watch all the current lyric videos. Stand Up and Be Counted is very important one right now. And Dick Trader's material is pretty good. The new video that's out called Even the Cool Succumb is on YouTube. And you can watch it for free. It's 3 minutes of rock and roll. Hope you like it.
Yeah, and then also we have on here too the NE Comic Cons. So if Gary's Thanksgiving show is on, you will see the information about that. But just follow that anyways, because you'll see about all this show. Gary does like 2 or 3 of them a year at least once we get rock.
Yeah.
So you can see that, and of course follow us here at Incredicon. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for all.
Thank you. This is my first one of these.
Oh, well.
Believe it or not. Can you tell? I've got the COVID-19 pounds and the facial hair, You can't see the pounds are down here. So, yeah, I got lazy.
Yeah, we all did. But no, Gary, thank you again for tonight. It was great. And then for everybody next week, our guest is going to be Javier Cruz-Winnick. He wrote this book, a couple of books, A Reason to Smile, and there's like 2 or 3 volumes of that. So that's who we're going to have on next week. And then check out Grazia's Getting Tuned on Tuesday. So once again, Gary, thank you for tonight.
Aloha.
We'll see you soon. Gary, just hold tight for a minute while we end, and we'll recap backstage. All right, good night, everybody.